My house is not aesthetic, but it won't stop me from creating content. Hello, good morning, my silent gems. How are you doing? I'm doing amazing, and I hope that's the same for you too. And if not, it's gonna be okay. Things take a turn, and what you're always used to comes crumbling down. For a long time, I struggled with accepting my living situation, and all I could think of was moving to a better house. Turns out, I didn't even have the resources to move to another house, and the only option was adapting to my new situation. If you've watched my videos, then you can see there is a big difference between this house and the house I lived in previously. And if you haven't, you can check it out after watching this one. And now that I think of it, it feels like a downgrade of what I am used to. When I moved in, I liked the house because it was spacious. It had a lot of light coming through because it has 3 windows. But the only thing that I did not like was the floor, only because it lacked tiles and I had never lived in a house with no tiles. But then again, I was willing to compromise because the lighting was okay for my content. It was tough on my side to accept my living situation for what it was. And I even felt embarrassed of how I was living, even though I know I shouldn't have been. At some point, I don't know what changed, but my whole perspective of this house changed. I even remember asking myself why all I could say was what was lacking and why I never appreciated everything else that was good in it. Because for a certain period, I was like, I'm going to move. But then I was like, why do I want to move? This place, it is on a good location, the security is okay, the lighting is okay, everything was okay. But the one thing that would have made me leave this house is because of the tiles that were not in this house. And I don't know if you guys understand what it feels like to be at your lowest and still fight with yourself because your life has turned upside down. You want to make it look good and maintain your standards, but you don't have the capability. Never would I have thought that one day I would be living in a house with no tiles, but it is part of life. And I guess sometimes you have to go through things to appreciate what you're used to. And that's the case. And so, as I said, I had 3 windows, and the funny story is that when I moved, I only had 1 curtain. And I used to sleep just fine, move about my day without any worry. From the outside looking in, you would think that I had it all together, but that has just been my way of life for a long time. So it's not easy for someone to know when I'm going through something or when I'm not, unless, I don't know, you know how to read people so well. Yeah. So when I began creating content earlier this year for my YouTube, I was afraid of showing even the slightest bit that would make anyone judge me or perceive me in any way. Because as a content creator, presentation matters a lot, and we want our content to look amazing and have the best background. And so instead of putting up an act of how I was living, I became creative, because it's tiring to try and live a life that is not what you're living, if it makes sense. But when it came to creating content on TikTok, I never really cared. And in fact, I didn't even notice my flaw. I was just so free. But then at some point, I did notice and I became creative with it. That's the advantage of not having what you want. You learn to make do with what you have. And so as a result of not wanting to show this side of me, I found ways to create content without showing everything. And I'm glad for that, because it made me more creative and I learned to shoot content in so many ways compared to if my house was aesthetic and I wouldn't mind showing everything. You know, when you have everything in your house, when you have a perfect house, when you have the furniture, when you have everything that makes a house look good, you're not going to be bothered by what people are going to be saying in your videos or not, because you already know it's looking good, so why would you worry? But when you don't have an aesthetic house or when you don't have furniture like me, when you just, I don't want to say I'm just existing or surviving, because I'm not exactly surviving, I am living. You have to learn how to make it work to your advantage. And so that is what I did. I did my research on YouTube, because YouTube is just the answer to everything. So I watched other content creators, I watched videos, I watched, like the music videos, just seeing how different camera angles were incorporated. I even find myself, whenever I'm watching movies, I find myself like trying to understand, like, where was the camera guy standing at, the camera position and all that. And so from consuming all that and taking what I needed, I figured out that I didn't have to show everything, and I could incorporate different angles to bring my content live. And so that is what I did. I tried out different angles. I just played around to see what worked and what didn't work. And that is how it all came to be. All this to say that life happens and you might find yourself in situations you never anticipated or planned for. You have a choice. You can either accept your new reality and make it work to your advantage, or you can move around, complain all you want, like I did at the beginning. But trust that God won't change your situation until you change your attitude towards your situation. Because if I continued to complain, there is nothing that would have changed. and I would still be stuck on the idea that I can't create videos because I don't want to show how my house is looking. But then I decided to make it work by trying out different ways as to how I could create content, compile it together, and bring something live. And as much as people would have their own speculations about my living situation, it wouldn't matter as much because at the time, I wouldn't say I had fully accepted, but I have come to fully accept it, because if I told I don't have the capability to change it, then why should I be ashamed of how I am living? So my advice is, if you have a dream, a goal, a vision, and you lack the resources to do it broke. The resources will find you along the way. One thing you need to understand is that you're capable of making anything work, but the trick is you have to decide whether to do it or to wait until you have all the resources. And this is something that I've always known for a long time, because I found myself doing things that way. And so, if you want to pursue something and you know you have the capability to do it, just go for it. Just like I did, because after all, my house is not aesthetic, but it won't stop me from creating content. We are privileged to have some things in our lives, but we don't take note of it until we no longer have it. And we should learn to be grateful for whatever we have,